All right, so here's an overview of our presentation today. First, we'll meet the presenters. Then we'll talk about KCF Technologies, who we are, what we do. Then we'll move into our three-phase deployment process that we normally use. Following that, we'll talk about how we've adapted to working with COVID-19. After that, we've got the bullet points on how we've delivered customer value during these times, and we'll wrap it up with a brief Q&A session at the end. So my name is Josh Martin. I'm a field operations manager in timber products. My team is focused on deployments, so we're traveling to customer sites and performing the on-site work. Next up, you'll hear from Adam Dalo. He's a technical analyst manager in timber products, and his team is focused on remote condition monitoring. So they're setting up the software and alarms, and they're providing that remote monitoring service. Then we'll wrap it up with Rick Barth. He's a project manager in timber products, and he's focused on the schedule adherence, quality cost, keeps us organized and keeps us on track. Between the three of us, we got 40 years of combined industrial experience. So KCF Technologies was founded in 2000, and we have affiliations with Penn State. We are headquartered in State College, PA, not far from the campus. We have regional offices in Detroit, Michigan, as well as Fort Worth, Texas. We are 220 plus employees strong, which allows us to be small, agile, and customer focused. And our mission is to optimize American manufacturing. Now, our teams are divided by industry. So we have a timber team, an automotive team, an oil and gas team, as well as a manufacturing team. Now, our manufacturing team services customers in multiple industries, industries such as food and beverage, pharmaceuticals, steel production, power generation, as well as others. All right, so next we'll talk about Smart Diagnostics, which is KCF's remote machine health monitoring system. It consists of both hardware and software. As far as the hardware, we offer wireless and wired solutions. On the bottom right of the screen there, you'll see a picture of one of our wireless vibration sensors. This sensor is also capable of measuring temperature, as well as 2 axes of vibration. We offer additional sensors that are capable of monitoring things such as oil quality, pressure, as well as others. The software is cloud-based. It's up all the time, so it allows for 24/7 machine condition monitoring. It features automated alarms and notifications, and those notifications can be configured to communicate through text or email or both. And the graphic at the bottom of the screen shows the data flow through the system. So on the very left, you'll see the sensor nodes. Those nodes are attached and installed on your machinery out in the plant. They send data to a repeater or a base station, which then uploads that data to the cloud. It does this through cellular, Ethernet, or Wi-Fi. And the data analytics software is also hosted in the cloud. Now, this is important because being cloud-based means you don't have to call your IT department and get special permissions to install some third-party software. It also means you can access it from any computer that has internet access. So it could be on a phone, a tablet, or on your laptop at home. So now we'll move into the three-phase deployment process we normally utilize. The blue phases are normally on-site work. So the first on-site work that occurs is the assessment. And during the assessment, we are obtaining information about your machine. So we're looking at bearing numbers, horsepowers, running speeds. We also conduct an RF survey of the site, and this prepares us to determine the best placement of our base stations and repeaters. And we're creating maps. We create maps of your assets, their location within the plant, as well as the proposed locations of base stations and repeaters. So after the assessment, there's some off-site work that occurs. The production team is assembling the hardware and preparing that for shipment. And Adam's team prepares the software. They build out the software structure in order to prepare for the second phase, which is the installation. Now, during the installation phase, we're installing the sensors on your equipment. We're installing the base stations and repeaters. We update the maps that were created during the assessment with more detailed information, and we verify that the systems are online. So after the installation phase, there's some system settling time that we allow for. We are also collecting data during this time, which will be used later to set the alarm points. During this final phase, the final on-site work is the calibration. And during the calibration, we're fine-tuning the system, we're setting alarms, we're configuring the notifications, and we also conduct on-site training with any of your employees that will be using the software. This is normally how we do it, but now COVID-19 comes along. There's lots of travel restrictions put in place. There's a lot of our customers that are either shut down or in idle mode, and many of them aren't allowing outside visitors. So we have to ask ourselves, how can we adapt to accomplish these normally on-site activities remotely? And with that, I'll turn it over to Adam Dalo.
Okay, thank you, Josh. So I am going to be talking about how we have adapted to COVID-19 by completing what would normally be on-site activities, as Josh just described, completely remotely. And so the title of this presentation was discussing how remote monitoring has changed. And in reality, remote monitoring itself really hasn't changed all that much, right? It's been remote for quite a while. However, the process to getting there, we've had to adapt and change. And so in order to access all of that data remotely, we need to physically install hardware in the plants in which we're working with. And so to help facilitate that process, we have created remote assessment, installation, and calibration processes, procedures, and documentation, which serve as a guideline for our customers. It provides pictures and diagrams, documentation on how the hardware works, how it is to be mounted, what sensor orientations and sensor placements are proper for different types of equipment, depending on the industry. And so it also includes very specific touch points between KCF and the customer in order to have a conversation and determine the best course of action for that site. So for example, one of those touch points that's very important is determining where the hardware needs to be located in the facility. So in this example, we can take a map of the site and we can, or a portion of the site, and we could take a look at that and have a discussion with the customer to determine where the assets are located, how many sensors need to be installed on those assets. And based on that, we can determine where the base stations and repeaters need to be placed in that area in order to facilitate the communications. Similarly, for each asset, we want to walk through the process of where the sensors should be installed and in what orientations they should be installed in order to get the best result. So for every asset that you would like to monitor, we want to walk through and determine where those sensors need to be installed. So in this case, we may want to install a sensor on the motor inboard and on the inboard and outboard pillow block bearings for this particular asset. And so by the time we get through the assessment phase, every single piece of hardware has a place that it is to be installed in a plan, so that by the time we get to the installation phase, all we are doing is executing that plan. And then for the calibration phase, we are just ensuring that that hardware is functioning as designed, which we can do completely remotely as well. So one of the things that is to our advantage is that KCF, we are already experts in remote monitoring. So we do this through our existing Sentry services which we've had in place for several years, and this is our remote monitoring service. And it's been to our advantage to really create a seamless transition because we've had so much practice in facilitating remote communications. Like Josh described, we can access the data through the cloud from anywhere in the world. And so we've had a lot of practice in remote communications and monitoring, and that's really created a seamless transition into facilitating these remote installation activities. We have also utilized some additional new tools and technologies in order to facilitate that communication. And those are things like FaceTime or Teams like we're using right now, or WebEx. And what we've done is we've used that to facilitate live demonstrations and training, just to ensure that the customer is comfortable with what they are doing out in the field. We've actually had some customers who have virtually brought us out into the field with them on the shop floor and have walked through, the first couple of assets or installation of sensors in order to make sure that they're comfortable with the installation and know that they're placing the sensors in the right orientations. And really the key here, we're not doing anything too mind-blowing or fancy, but the key is constant communication and leveraging the existing relationships that KCF has with our customers and building upon those relationships in order to facilitate communication and make sure that we're walking through this process through having daily meetings or multiple meetings per day, talking through the plan, make sure we're executing the plan, and discussing any challenges that we're facing throughout the process. Some of the advantages that we've seen to doing remote work versus on-site is that we're able to start collecting data and generating value now versus having to wait until travel restrictions are lifted or sites are able to allow contractors back on site. So that could be, several months or who knows how long until we could actually start to see the value and the return on investment from your smart diagnostic system. So by working through this process remotely, we are able to start collecting that data and seeing that return now versus later. We also see that in our experience, the sites that have the most success in using smart diagnostics have an on-site owner of that system and a champion who really understands the system, knows where everything is installed throughout the facility, has a basic understanding of how it works, and knows who to call when they need help with something. And so this remote process of work has really helped to foster that site ownership and enhance the knowledge of that champion of both smart diagnostics hardware and software. And of course, some of the challenges that we've seen, there's been some growing pains along the way, as you would expect. And primarily it's obvious that it's a little bit more legwork for the site personnel because they are the ones who need to be physically out installing this equipment. And they have full-time jobs already and responsibilities that they need to attend to. And so what we've seen is that it sometimes takes slightly longer to complete each one of these phases versus if KCF was to come on site and take care of it 100% on-site installation. And we're also relying on video and phone communications versus face-to-face, which it's very hard to replace face-to-face communication. But what we will talk about next is just the way that our customers, the feedback that we've gotten, the benefits seem to greatly outweigh these potential challenges. And to talk more about that, I'm going to hand it over to our project manager, Rick Barth.
Thanks, Adam. From a project management standpoint, and those of you who have dealt with projects know that this has been a highly unusual time. In fact, in my career, I've not seen schedule variance to this degree, but I'd like to share some ways in which KCF has continued to deliver high customer value. We recently completed a 600 sensor installation at a customer's industrial plant. This was done 100% remotely and required good engagement by folks on property to physically install our sensors and gateway equipment in communication with us remotely. And this was also one of our largest installations done remotely to date. Secondly, we calibrated a 4,000 sensor network. If you recall, calibration is our third step in our three-step process where we go in and dial in the system and make sure it's operating correctly. We did have to go on site a little bit to get this up and running, but we did this work 90% remotely. And finally, we achieved a record-setting machine health metric across a division of customer plants, and this work was done 100% remotely. So I'd like to share a few customer testimonials with you. Remote assistance has been successful. The main takeaway is reliable communication. Our team was available for the meetings we'd scheduled, and we accomplished our goals. So this customer was very interested in good communication. KCF has increased a key reliability metric by 70%, thus increasing our profit. So this customer was interested in profit and metrics, and we were very happy to help them. And then a third customer said a few growing pains, but mostly on our side, and given the circumstance, very satisfied. So we are very happy that these customers are all satisfied and moving forward with us. So KCF has been and continues to be a remote work leader. So some key takeaways I'd like to leave with you today. At KCF, we embrace the power of communication, adaptability, and speed. We know that in uncertain times that these qualities are paramount to delivering value for our customers, and they're closely tied with our company's core values. Our commitment to you is a great working relationship. We'll work off hours, weekends, whenever is required to get the job done quickly and correctly. We're aware that today's problems are rarely just technical in nature, so a good working relationship is critical, and that's our commitment. So let KCF help improve your machine health and help maximize your operations, either on-site safely or remotely. So with that, I'd like to open up for questions. If you have questions about our hardware or our processes, drop us a line at the information shown on the screen here.
Okay, great guys. So thank you for your presentation, and we do have a couple of questions that have come in. So the first one is, what has been most challenging about remote work?
Oh, goodness. I can take this one. This is Josh. I'd say what's been most challenging about remote work is actually being remote. You know, we're normally when we're on site, there's a lot of activities that we can do. You know, when you're troubleshooting, for example, you come across an issue, maybe it's a sensor that's not online, and it's easy just to run out in the plant, locate that sensor and take care of it. But when we're remote, we're relying strictly on the customer to be our hands in the plant and our eyes and ears. So that can be challenging because, you know, all customers wear a lot of hats, right? That's plant life. So when we're on site, our full focus is KCF issues. But when we're remote, you know, we're relying on the customer being able to carve out some time out of their busy schedule to be able to assist.
Thank you. What are some best practices for that kind of remote work?
Thanks, Cassie. Yeah, I can take this one. This is Adam. So I would say, just going back to what I said earlier, really in terms of best practices, the key here, it's all about communication. We need to have constant communication, a constant dialogue occurring between KCF and the customer. You know, we assign engineers dedicated to the phase that's occurring at your site, and that is their primary focus. And so they are really dedicated to having that communication with you. The key is we're not just shipping you a box of hardware and saying, hey, good luck, and maybe including some instructions on a piece of paper. We are providing you a dedicated team in order to help work through any issues and ensure the high quality of your installation. So I would say just best practices is communication and having a clear owner, both on the KCF and the customer side.
Awesome, thank you. And along those lines, now that there's more remote work, has the operating quality of Smart Diagnostics system been compromised or impacted at all?
I can take this one. This is Rick. By the way, Smart Diagnostics is the name of our operating system. And regarding the quality of the system, from an infrastructure perspective, we utilize some big names in the country. We utilize Amazon and the major cell carriers, and all of those companies are robust and healthy. And that infrastructure has maintained throughout the last several months. We have not seen any change in that. From an on-site system maintenance perspective, we've actually seen an increase in quality. Just like Adam said earlier, we've seen an improvement in the customer's engagement in how our system works and the maintenance of our system. Our system doesn't require much maintenance on site. You can see in the bottom right corner, you see that sensor. Inside the cap of the sensor is a 3-volt battery that requires changing every once in a while. But the system doesn't require a lot of maintenance, but the general awareness and understanding of the system, that has improved through our customers. And so we've seen an improvement in the system quality.
That's great to hear. And finally, it looks like we have one more that's come in. Have you seen a decrease in work as a company overall?
Okay, so this is Josh again. I'll take this one. As far as a decrease in work, we haven't seen a decrease in the planned volume. So, the customers we work with, they haven't canceled orders, for example, and they still want to continue the process. But we have seen a shift to the right as far as the schedule. There's been a lot of delays due to travel restrictions, and customers. A lot of our customers are working remotely during this time, so that they're just running some limited crews on site. So no reduction in the amount of work, just some delays in the schedule.
Thanks, Josh. And so if you have any questions that we didn't get time for today and weren't able to answer, please reach out. Thank you for all for your thoughtful participation today, and we'll send a follow-up email with the link to register for our next event and this session's recording. Our brief survey will also be included. We'd really appreciate your feedback. So be sure to follow along with us on social media for more updates and announcements. And thanks again, Josh, Adam, and Rick, for a great presentation. I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.